Question for you. Where was the first European settlement in mainland Australia? Now you're probably thinking Botany Bay in 1770, and you'd be wrong. The first European settlement was here, right behind me in Cooktown. After Botany Bay, Captain James Cook in his ship the Endeavour sailed up the east coast of Australia, and it was in the waters nearby that he struck coral, and that damaged the ship. So Cook limped into this estuary behind me here and set up camp while they repaired the ship. They were here for 48 days, and that became the first settlement of Europeans on mainland Australia. After about a month and a half, Cook and his crew managed to repair the Endeavour, and they limped out of here back into open waters and on towards Indonesia. If you want to know more about Cook's experiences here, then you need to come to Wambao Biri, which is the Cultural and Heritage Centre. Cook was actually really lucky that this is the place he chose to come ashore, because the Gugu Yimadir, sorry if I butchered that, the local indigenous people, this was always a place of reconciliation, of resolving disputes. When Cook and his sailors were here, they were unsure about the indigenous people, and there was a little bit of tension. I think at one point Cook even took a shot at somebody. But then later, one of the elders from the local indigenous tribe came out of the bush with a broken spear, symbolising that they wanted to make peace. And one of the first acts of reconciliation between Europeans and First Nations people here in Australia happened right here in Cooktown in that moment. So the exhibition here tells the story of Cook's Landing, but it tells it from both sides, not just European-centric, but also from the local First Nations people's perspective. And here at the Cultural Centre, there's a lovely 2-metre replica of the Endeavour. Grassy Hill offers you a beautiful lookout over the sea and Cooktown and the inlets. So after 48 days, the Endeavour was sufficiently patched up to return to the open ocean. Captain Cook climbed this hill, which is now known as Grassy Hill, to look out over the ocean and plot safe passage through the Great Barrier Reef. So I'm standing exactly where Captain Cook stood to try and plot a safe route through the Great Barrier Reef. He was successful, and the Endeavour limped on to Batavia, which I believe is in Indonesia. And it's really windy up here. This is the Lighthouse up at Grassy Hill. Apparently it was sold for $100 in 1988, so somebody bought a lighthouse for $100. When the Endeavour hit the reef, it actually sat on the reef for 23 hours. Everybody on board really thought they were done for, but they threw a lot of goods overboard, a lot of the ballast, firewood, some of their stores, and eventually they managed to float the Endeavour again off the coral and limp into what is now Cooktown. Some of those artefacts that were thrown overboard have since been recovered. They're here in the museum. We have an original anchor and cannon from Captain Cook's Endeavour. There's even a bit of a tree that the Endeavour was tied to while it was here under repair. But Cooktown is not all about history. It's about 3 hours drive north of Cairns. Not a lot of tourists come here, and that's a shame because it's a beautiful little place. These are steps built for a queen. In 1970, when Queen Elizabeth visited Cooktown, they had to build some steps so she could safely disembark from her boat. Prawn fishing is what they do here, and you can actually buy some prawns straight off the boat. This boat's come in this morning after being out all night, and he's making a brisk trade and selling fresh prawns.
People just like fresh prawn.
The captain didn't want to be on camera, but he was telling me that everybody loves his prawns. They're the nicest they've ever had, and I'm not surprised because they're so fresh. They literally were caught last night. Cooktown's second wave of immigrants was the result of gold being discovered in the 1870s at nearby Palmer. That brought thousands of Chinese here to prospect for gold. By 1878, there was something like 18,000 Chinese here, either prospecting for gold or growing food for those who were prospecting. Now, the rich ones came from China via boat and landed here at what's now Cooktown. The ones that couldn't afford that took a boat to Darwin and had a massive, more than 1,500 kilometre trek from Darwin through to the goldfields here near Cooktown. Enormous, enormous feat. And because there was gold in the region, there was money, and that's reflected in some of the beautiful heritage buildings you can find in Cooktown, particularly in Charlotte Street, which is the main street. This is the old Cooktown railway station. It was built in 1885, so the railway station has now been turned into a local artists collective. Everything in here is made by locals. There's some beautiful works in here, really creative. There's pottery, ceramics. Ceramics is pottery, Terence. There's ceramics, there's clothes, there's dyeing, there's paintings. It's gorgeous. Let me show you some.
Like this one,
Yes.
you can see the leaves. This is actually with gum leaves, and so you're putting the gum leaves, and there's a process to putting the gum leaves onto there, and you boil it in different dyes made from from leaves and bark and roots. But this one is done slightly differently, and you can see this is actually a leaf. So the leaf goes onto the fabric. This is a grevillea leaf here, and then that one's actually done through steaming, so it doesn't get any colour in the background. You've still got the original colour there.
It was here that I met Hazel, a passionate advocate for Cooktown.
Yes, Cooktown's a bit of a surprising place. People don't realise what's here till they come here, and there's a lot here, a lot to see. Well, we've got the historical side, we've got all the cook stuff, we've got the good museum that goes with that, we've got the first botanical gardens in Queensland, we have the gold rush history, and on top of that we've got all the scenic stuff and the fishing and just the laid back life of a little town. So
It is beautiful.
And people, until people get here, they really don't realise what's here, and they come through and they say, oh, I'm only here for 2 days, and you know, it's not long enough. There's too much to see.
Hazel's absolutely right. I was coming for 2 days. I've already extended my visit because there's just so much to see and do here. It's a beautiful laid-back town. And Hazel, I'm assuming there are a lot of artistic people in this town.
I think it attracts people who are, into the arts.
Yes.
I do.
Hazel, what's it like living here, and what are the best things about living here?
The weather, of course, is nice. Very laid back. No traffic lights, hardly any crime at all.
Yeah.
Just things like it's community. People know each other, they help each other. Very tolerant society. We don't have any racial problems here at all. You probably noticed there's a big mix of people here. No, I love it actually.
So during the gold rush in 1870s, Charlotte Street, the main street here, was super busy. These days there's 2,500 people live here, but in those days it was more like 12,000. Apparently there were something like 96 pubs and brothels, and the madam of one of the brothels, her name was Palmer Kate, she had a solid gold chamber pot, and she used to let her favourite clients drink champagne out of it. Wild, crazy frontier town back in those days. There are 3 museums in Cooktown, even though it's a small town. This one behind me is by far the largest. This is an old convent from the gold rush days. This convent was built in 1889, filled with Catholic nuns, I think it was, from Ireland. And I think their job was to try and convert all the naughty people in town. So the whole building had fallen into rack and ruin by the late 60s, but Queen Elizabeth was due to visit in 1970, so suddenly, miraculously, a lot of work was done to restore the building. After Cook and after the gold rush, Cooktown became a pretty quiet little town. It's very much a sense of a frontier town. If you are running away from something or somebody, this is probably the sort of town you'd come to. And while I've been made to feel nothing but welcome here, and it's been great, people are so friendly, I can imagine out of town, up in the mountains on the way between here and Cairns, it's a vast space, and people could get lost up there. This is where people sometimes go missing, where criminals suddenly disappear, and sometimes murders go unsolved. Behind me here is Black Mountain. This is molten lava from 250 million years ago. It's just a mountain of black boulders because over all that time the water had washed the soil away and you're left with the black boulders, and somewhere deep in there is the granite core of that mountain. Fascinating, never seen one like this before. Next, just on the edge of town, is the Cooktown Botanic Gardens. These are the oldest botanic gardens in Queensland. They were built in 1878 because there were a lot of people here because of the gold rush. And they're a beautiful little oasis of tropical palms and plants used by the indigenous people. It's really shady and peaceful and calm, and bird song everywhere. Beautiful. What a lovely place to just chill for a little bit, have a picnic lunch on weekends, in the shade, beautiful green surroundings. Cooktown, you're getting lots of ticks in my book. This beautiful old building used to be a bank. Now it's a cafe. So the Palmer River area was the major gold fields around here, and this bank was built to store the gold from those fields. Here's the vault. Look how thick that door is. This building was built in about 1890, and it's quite enormous for a small town like Cooktown. And the bank manager would have lived upstairs. That's now a B&B. You can actually stay here if you want. Just out of town is the beautiful little Finch Bay. Gorgeous little cove. Can't swim because of crocodiles, but you could admire it. Alright, I don't want to get anywhere near that water's edge because there seriously are lots of crocodiles up here. Unfortunately, somebody was taken by a crocodile just a couple of months ago in this area, and that serves as a warning to be super careful. Just stay away from the water's edge. About a half an hour out of Cooktown, I've come to the iconic Lion's Den pub. This is a quirky outback tin shed of a pub that was built in 1887.
Alright, there you are, mate. Approved?
And the walls here are completely filled with people writing their names and little messages and bits of graffiti. There's even writing on the ceiling. It's a nice little location, and they even have a caravan park out the back.
I know that you're curious, I know that you're strong, but life can be furious and things can go wrong. You go, we're better off tomorrow, but who knows if we get joy or sorrow. Stay true to that fire in your heart and your soul. Don't drench your desire in what you can't control. We fly, try so hard to get there, and we might be lost but not forever.
Cooktown is the gateway to Cape York. It used to very much be a frontier town filled with renegades and runaways. These days it's more retirees looking for a sea change and taking advantage of the beautiful laid-back atmosphere here at Cooktown. I've had a great time here, actually really enjoyed it. It's a lovely town. Highly recommend you take the drive up from Cairns and come visit Cooktown. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. I'm walking around and I'm trying to dodge the sprinklers because there's so many. Oh, no. But I can't talk. But Cooktown, far out. Grass, geez, it's windy up here. After about a week and a half, after, I don't know where my brain is today. My God, it's so windy up here. I'm really having trouble holding the camera steady. Oh my goodness.
There's things in life you simply need to know. But sun and rain and trust in letting go. It takes a bit of suffering, sleepless nights and wandering before you make it safely to the end, the end.